Hello, everyone, and welcome to this audio podcast. This audio podcast is part of a Phantom Edition. This audio podcast is part of a Labostix Machina. This audio podcast is part of Vertex Roulette. This audio podcast is part of the Abstrax, and this audio podcast is part of a Storm Labostix production. And through this audio podcast today, looking at an abstract in regard to peer reviewed and published works in around 2020. Around 2020, looking at healthcare scientists in primary care, and where the publication formally sort of asks whether healthcare whether there's a whether publication, a peer reviewed publication, asks the question: Is now the right time for healthcare scientists in primary care? And from where the publication looks at the question in context of a systematic review. Um, the um, the uh, the abstract is as thus. So the UK or the United Kingdom is seeing a continuing an important shift in the burden of disease from mortality to mobility. Much of the much of the health burden is preventable, and much of the monitoring in context of chronic kidney disease, for example, CKD, CKD for CKD patients or recipients occurs in mild to moderate disease or condition by general practitioners or GPs, with only the final stages of the condition or disease managed in secondary care. Patients with varying sort of primary conditions and CKD or chronic kidney disease are now being prompted to self care more and take lead of health or healthcare. And in turn, this also means that access to education relating to conditions management in within the National Health Service, the National Health Service (NHS), for example, face ongoing challenges. So the aims in around this, the aims as part of this, through this works, and as part of the abstracts, was we're conducting a systematic review over an 18-year duration. This work sought to describe what educational and support pathway for chronic kidney disease or CKD could look like, with healthcare scientists' involvement to provide supplementary education surrounding this long-term or long-standing condition. And the work also sought to understand if CKD, chronic kidney disease recipients could attain more informed sort of understanding or education from disease management and laboratory tests and investigations. The works will also sought to outline really if now is the right time for healthcare scientists to be more to be involved in primary care and primary care for in primary care to support sort of best aspects of best practice. So, in regard to the methodology, a systematic review was conducted on over an 18-year duration. A critical appraisal skills program, or CASP, was utilized to appraise publications or papers. The analysis, specific analysis, was where from 1,481 papers or publication identified through several databases, um, from the 1,481 publications identified through several databases, and some duplications were removed. 30 publications were further scrutinized after taking out after taking out duplications for integrity and relevance according to terminologies and categories aligned to healthcare scientists, diagnostic screening, and primary care. Seven papers of publication were further excluded. 23 full text articles were further appraised for eligibility. Two were further two further were excluded. Remaining 21 papers were included, and five themes were identified. In regard to the conclusions, there is a need for a review of the current healthcare scientist workforce in the United Kingdom, and consideration for these healthcare professionals being available for CKD recipients, CKD patients, or CKD chronic kidney disease patients, or CKD chronic kidney disease recipients in primary care. Some terminologies to identify similar works include chronic kidney disease, healthcare scientists, leadership, smarter working, collaboration, education, skill mix, and barriers. That draws this audio podcast to a close. This audio podcast is part of a Phantom edition. This audio podcast is part of a Labostix Machina. This audio podcast is part of a Vertex Relay. This audio podcast is part of the Abstrax, and this audio podcast is part of the Storm Labostix production.